Hello everyone and welcome to this 9th coding challenge tutorial. In this one I'm going to be trying to make a Premiere script editor where we can create script files, load them back up, and adjust them and run them directly in Premiere with an extension. So this is going to be an extension coding challenge which will allow us to then easily code JSX files, and of course the code for this will be free. Before we get started with this video, I do want to remind you down below, hit subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of new videos coming out twice weekly on the channel, and down in the description you can check out the GitHub link for this to get the code and try it out for yourself. You can also follow us there for coding updates, and in the description follow us on Instagram for other live updates. If you're not a member of the Discord server, you can come and join and get help with scripting, extensions, plugins, expressions, and much more. And if you'd like to help support the YouTube channel and get cool perks at the same time, you can become a member, supporter, premium supporter, or VIP. Alright, so the first step in creating this is going to be to design our interface. Now, Paint isn't like the coolest program, but in our case, I think it's going to work just fine. So first, let's draw how we think the UI should look. We're going to need, obviously, I think a more wide than tall interface. Here we have like our little close button thing in the name. And this, so all this area here is going to be taken up top. I think just having the name there will be plenty of information. We don't need a big fancy logo or anything. So let's create like a faux file menu. Maybe we have, let's see what options. So we could have new, break, open, and then I think over here on the right side we could just have a run button. Make a proper triangle. Come on. I'm not a very good hand artist, so I do my best. So we'll have a new button. This will create a new document. We'll have an open button to open a new one. We'll have a play button to allow you to run that script in Premiere. Additionally, we need to figure out if we're going to have different tabs for this or how this is going to work. So we obviously have this big area here. We can put all of the text that we can type code into, but what we also are going to want is something to keep track of multiple projects at once. I think we should have support for that if this is going to be at least a basic code editor. So we almost need to have like even sub elements here. They'll take up most of the space down here. Let's make a little bit room for a footer, and then we'll have our tabs here. So if we have 3 elements open. Okay, and this will extend all the way down, and we'll probably want a scroll bar too. So something like that, and we have JSX, and then all of our code inside of there. So that is going to be the basics. We could maybe have a settings button somewhere too. Let's just place one right here for now. These are my cogs. Kind of looks like a flower. So we'll add a footer to let us know what version we're on. And this will be helpful if there's ever any bugs or things you need help with. You can submit it, and we'll know what version numbers and code base to compare it to. So we'll just call this like 0.0.3 for now. Come on. And I think that should really do it for now. The basics are there, and then we're going to have quite a bit of minor things to code for this. So to get started, I should probably use my, start with my example code. Just download this. And I'll go ahead and make a new extension over here in my extensions. Extension testing already exists, so I'll just remove it. Bring this in. And now we'll go ahead and open this up in my preferred editor right now for extensions, which has now moved from Sublime over to Visual Studio Code. And I'll go ahead and load up extension testing. Now remember that when you create a new extension and you change some of the manifest file, you have to restart the application itself to be able to see the changes. But the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and set up my match names, or my names in my manifest setup. So we'll call this com.premiere.scriptEditor. I don't think we're going to have anything fancy for the name or creative. We'll just say Premiere Pro Script Editor. Make sure this is the same. And we'll make sure we change the name in our menu here as well. I don't think we need the Premiere Pro, just Premiere. And that should be good. I'll go ahead and look at the JSX here. We can remove JS color. There are actually quite a bit of things in here that I have unused, and I should update the file. I just haven't gotten around to it. You can see some variables are unused and things like that, but most of the time, other than like this JS color, that's the base code you want to use for an extension. We're going to call it Premiere Pro. No, just Premiere Script Editor. I'll also remove this Spectrum CSS, which I never use anymore. All right, now let's go ahead and restart Premiere and see how it comes up. So now we should see in our window extensions, we should have Premiere Script Editor. Oh, is this a... Did I forget to change it to Premiere, not After Effects in the manifest? Yes, this needs to be Premiere Pro. And what is this, version 15 or something? Yeah, so we'll say 15 would be CC 2021, 14 2020. Let's try 10 and up, version 10 and up. Now we can restart it one more time, and it should work. Then we're basically going to take our design here, and I think we'll just start coding it. All right, now we'll go to Window Extensions, and we have Premiere Script Editor with our typical blank UI here. So now the next step is to compare our design and code it on another side of the screen. So we're going to first create this sort of overall base UI. This is excluding any open JSX or document file. So in our HTML, in our body, we can go ahead and start building this. The first thing we're going to need is this header. We have this header section which has the ability to open a new one, or create a new one, and these other buttons. Then we'll have our sort of content div, which contains all of our content and our script files to edit, and then we'll have a basic footer. I think that's how we're going to devise this up. So say div ID is equal to header div, and then I'll create one of these for each of our three groups. We have our content div and our footer div. Also, there's a preview section in here which we don't need from the extension testing code. Now let's go ahead and fill in the next couple things. We're going to want inside of our header a group for these two buttons here, or text, whatever it's going to be, and then one for these two that are going to be aligned right. So inside of our header div, we'll say div ID. We can honestly call this a file div because it's kind of like the file function where we have file new or file open. And then inside of here, we're going to have our new file button. And the inner HTML for that will be new. And then we'll do open. This will be our open file button. Then we'll create a second one. That's the file div. Now we're going to copy and paste it, and we'll have the debug div, because this is going to be like options and play, which are kind of debug options. For now, I'm just going to put in a question mark for the options, and I guess we don't really have a play button, but we can just say that's play. We'll say play button, settings button. Then in the content div, we're going to do the CSS after this. We're just going to program all the elements first. Inside of our content div, we should probably start with the empty. And I think what we'll do is either have like a create new with a plus button in the center to create a new document if you don't want to press the new button, or something like this maybe. Or we could do just blank and then have them forcibly press the new button. In our footer, we'll create a small div for our version text. That's going to be version 0.0.3. Start off with that. And now I think we can go into our CSS and get the sizing of all this. Let's just go ahead and load it up in the same window here. Delete that. All right, so we have our three divs, our header div, our content div, and our footer div. Each of these, we're going to want the width to be 100% of our entire document. So we'll just say width 100 VW, which is kind of like 100% of the viewer, not percentage necessarily. And we'll want this for each of these three. And then for the height, let's make the header div 30 pixels. And I'm also going to set these up with normal displays here, like display inline block, position relative. This is just a kind of organizational thing. Now for the height of the content div, we're going to calculate that here in a second. Our footer div, let's also make 30 high and 100% of the width of the viewer. So to get how high the content div should be, we just have to subtract our two divs here, our header and our footer div, which ultimately is 60 pixels. So the height of our content div is going to be a calculation of 100% minus 60 pixels. I think we have to use percent for this. And that should make it nice and fitting. Now we're going to visualize this stuff. We're going to just set it to random colors, our divs that is. We're basically going to have it set up for, can I pick? Awesome. We're going to set this up so that we can view the overall bare bones look of it, and then from there start fine-tuning it. You always want to start with a broader view of everything, perfect that, and then go down deeper into the finer details. So now we can just save it and refresh it in Premiere, and you can see what's our yellow group. That one should be our content div, not showing much. Let's set it to something arbitrary, like 500 pixels. This text is also a little big, so I'm gonna grab my version text and set the font size to, I don't know, 10 pixels. And also, it's I don't think I like the black, so let's go with something like gray. Then as well, for these elements here, these need to be made so they align properly. And those are called new file button and open file button. And we're just going to set these to be display inline block position relative. We'll make the height 100% because they're inside of another element whose height is 35. Also going to want these to be gray colored. Then I also need to separate them with, well, I don't have to necessarily make the line character. I guess we can just use a border. So the open one is second. We can say border left. It's going to be a solid. What are the parameters? It's like solid color. I thought this would have a better example. Solid gray. I think then it's the width of it. Let's try that. That should make a nice separator. It's going to need some adjustments, but now you can see this is Easter colors, but for the most part, these are all the way they should be working. They're 100% of the window, and their heights are pretty good as well, with a bit of padding. So I'm going to slightly increase the size of that version text. I think 12 is probably fine. I'm also going to remove these background colors. We're ready to get a bit more picky here. We're going to grab our debug div. I guess we need to grab the file div too. We have so many divs. So the file div goes above here. Give it that. And then we have a debug div who I'm going to float right, and I believe that negates, what is it? Let's treat it as block, so we don't need a display. Then we need those two buttons. So we have our settings button and our play button. We're going to set those to be inline block. We're going to say width 30 pixels, height 30 pixels. I'm going to give them some rounded edges, border radius of 10. We're going to make the background color slightly different than After Effects itself. That should be good color. And the text color is going to be gray. All right, let's have a look at that. See how well we did. All right, so we're getting there. These are in the wrong place. Let's turn off float right. First, we need to get them on the same line. They shouldn't be so far down. Maybe if we custom set the debug group height to like 30 pixels. No. So it could be that the header div itself is 30 pixels. Let's try 25 pixels on all these values. It looks smaller, but it's not fitting well. Let's take what if we made it even smaller, or is it the file div maybe? If we set it to inline, we might need to actually custom set the width of the group. Let me try that. I'm not a professional CSS designer, so this is sometimes can be difficult. I'm gonna set the width to maybe 100 pixels. Because maybe before it was assuming that it was the whole width. No. And it's supposed to be floating right. Let's also set the width of this. Okay. We need to figure out why that's doing that. Let's try just inline. Okay. I'm gonna go back to setting this to float right. I'm also gonna make these each have a background color so you can visualize what's going on better. You know, I think it's because I was using the wrong, sorry. I think it was because I was using the wrong name. Oh yeah, it was a simple fix. It really was. All right, so remove those background colors. Now we're going to give each of our divs a little bit of color variation because, as you can see, the entire thing is the same color as the extension window. We want there to be a bit of variation. So the general background color of the dark mode I have, I think, is 23, 23, 23 hex value. Let's go ahead and take our footer div. I'll set the background color to be 30, 30, 30 maybe. And I'm also going to set my header to that because I kind of want them to be matching colors, and then that will contrast the center part. So as you can see, that's a slightly lighter color. That might actually work. We definitely need some padding around the elements that are in here. So I think what we can do in our file div is say padding top. Let's go 10 pixels. Our new file button, we're going to say margin left. Move it about 10 pixels to the right. And then open file button, we'll also add a margin left of 10 pixels. And we'll see how that affects the border line. I don't know, is there a border padding? I don't think that exists. Maybe we don't need to do that. And new file button. I think the padding here is too much. We should probably add padding to each of the individual elements. See how that works. All right, so still a little bit too much padding maybe, or that might be a good look. We'll see. Let's add some padding left to this and see how it affects it. I'm just trying to get the little details good looking. So that moves it to the next line. Is that because the file div width isn't enough? It is. So that leaves the border. Okay, cool. So the padding affects the actual text. The margin will affect the border. So if I say margin left as well, wrong one. We'll set that to 10 pixels. And I still think this padding top is too much. Let's go down to 7. Keep loading the wrong extension. Nice, that's looking way more like what I wanted. We're also going to need to change the mouse hover here, so let's quickly do that. New file button, hover. We're going to make the cursor a pointer. The same for our open file button. And then we're also going to change the text color. We're going to make it a little bit brighter. So we'll say maybe B. And that would just give it a slight variation. And while we're in the code still, I'm going to add a bit of padding to our version text. Let's say margin left. Probably only want to go about 5 pixels. And try margin top as well. 5 pixels. So now when we hover over that, it gives us a slightly different look. And our footer text looks much more comfortable in that spot. I think I still want to change the color of the background or the content here. Just make it subtly close to this color here. Or yeah, it was 30-30, right? So my content div, right? There it is. I'm going to set that equal to maybe, should be something lighter or darker. Let's try darker. We'll go 25, 25, 25. Pretty subtle difference. While I'm in the code as well, I'm just trying to do as much as possible before I relaunch. We want to make these look more button-like. So with my settings button, we're going to want to add a bit of padding top, maybe 5 pixels. We're going to want to add a background color. Oh, it already's got one. We'll make the background color lighter colored than this. So let's go 40. And you can give it, it's already got a border radius, it's just not visible yet. All right, we'll try that. a little bit too big. I think that's because of the padding though. That's the play button. It's 40. Yeah, I think it's too bright. Let's try and contrast it with dark. Then we'll say settings button, hover, give it a pointer, and change the text color to BBBB again. These are just the little things we're going to get done here to make it look a lot better. And the height, I think, needs to be 5 pixels less. So not great looking buttons. So that one's so annoying. You have to do a bit of messing around here to get this to look right. Let's see, that is still wrong. These are quite finicky, huh? Or can I just do this? Can I just say text align center? Will that work? Probably should work. Yes, but now the sizings are all weird. So let's... Actually, that's actually a really good size. You can just margin top these, I think, now. Give them like 5, 7 pixels. And that looks much better. Could probably also just change this so it'll fit a little bit better and look better if we just make it a bracket thingy. Alright, so that's for now going to be our header. We can open a new document or open an old one. We can also go to our settings and we can press the play button to test it out. Now we can move on to creating a new script. As we all do in the bathroom, I was thinking how this is going to work. We're going to need to set up like a predefined location to store all of the user's scripts. And it's going to need to be in a public place. Specifically, I'm thinking in the documents. So that's going to be where the extension will have access to these scripts, where it can save them and load them from, as well as run them. And maybe we could even offer like a library feature where it's like, here's all the stuff you've worked on, but that might be a little bit too much. So I've also just noticed that the change I made to the center color really didn't do much, making it 25, 25, 25. So let's make it 35. Maybe it has to be a little bit brighter. I guess that'll work for now. Let's do the new document button. So we got to find our new div here, and we're going to set an attribute called onClick. When we click on it, we're going to say new file, a function called new file. Head into our main.js, and we'll create a function called same thing that we just created here, new file. And inside of new file, what are we going to do? Well, we need to first create a new file, or we need to basically open up a new text editor box in the center here. In the back end, we need to make sure that, well, okay. So the first time we run this, it needs to set up a folder in your documents. Let's just call this Premiere Script Editor, and then we'll have a folder to store everything in. So the way we're going to do this actually, we're going to open our AfterEffects.jsx, and obviously it could be called something different. And this is not using inline JS, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that real quick. Just whatever. That is not either. I do really need to update this extension testing, huh? So now we have that. Don't really need this function anymore for this. But what we're going to do is, in the global scope of this, we can run something to initialize everything. What we're going to start with is by creating a folder. We're going to call this the Premiere Script Editor folder. This is going to be equal to a folder, and the path to that folder is going to be in the user's documents, and it's going to be a folder in the documents folder called Premiere Script Editor. Then we're going to check if it exists. If it hasn't been created yet, we can say if Premiere Script Editor folder does not exist, then we're going to create this folder by saying .create. Then inside of there, I don't know that we're going to need to do anything besides store some preferences and Premiere script files. Let's go ahead and create a scripts folder within there. So I'll copy and paste this. Say Premiere Script Editor scripts folder. And this is going to be one more level deep and say scripts. We're going to do the same thing. If that doesn't exist, we're going to create it. Then we'll do this one more time for our settings, I guess we can call it. That will create 3 folders when we initialize this. One thing actually, we want to make sure this can write to files, because Premiere, there's not really an option to do that inside of your preferences. So if I load up a manifest file, I should be able to find this. We just need, under the ID, some dispatch info. Or is it? In dispatch info, we have these resources. Yeah. Just copy and paste that. And this will allow us to use Node.js as well, and it will allow file access. We're also going to have to restart Premiere now to see that change, because this is a change to our manifest file. Next up, we'll go back and work on the rest of these folders. We'll need to create a preference file, which I guess we don't have to worry about now because I don't know what the settings are going to be yet. But we also want to be able to create a script in the scripts file. I think that's actually it for the initialization. Now if I go ahead and run this, looks like nothing happened, but if I go into my documents, do we have... it's not working quite yet. I'm going to put a test alert at the very beginning of this. Yeah, it's not loading that. There's either an error somewhere or a silly mistake. I have my include, I have my JSON. What we can do is create like an init function to initialize all this, I guess. Let's try that. I don't know, there might be something different happening here, but I'll say csinterface.eval script init, and this will be our function called init, where we create all these folders. Is there a syntax error maybe? Folder, no. So inside init, see if we get inside of our init. Okay, does that create the folder now? It does, okay. So I guess we just need to set it up inside of a function, but now we have this creating our Premiere script editor, scripts and settings folder. That's good because now we're going to create a new document in that scripts folder. So inside of our new file function, we're going to create a new variable, a div, which is going to be our, it's going to be the part in the middle here that contains all the code, but does it need an outer container, or how am I going to do this? We're going to need something to display the name. We're also going to need this. I've never done like a tabbed panel thing. So for now, we're just going to keep it to editing 1. We'll create an outer container. The outer container is going to have one column which contains the file name, and then the other which contains the code itself, I think. So we'll say editor container is equal to a document.create element div. We're going to set the ID of that to itself. We'll say document.get element by ID, our content div, and we're going to append this editor container. And then we'll have our editor container header, which is going to have the file names. It's also going to be a div. You can get away with using a lot of divs. You just have to style them correctly. We'll set the attribute of that ID to itself. And for now, that should be good. We'll add that to our editor container. I'll just duplicate this for the content, I guess we'll call it. Now, let's go ahead and style these. Our editor container. It's going to be 100% width. Okay, let's say 99. 99 width and 99 height. Because it's also within this content div, which already has a defined size and stuff. It's going to be an invisible container just for sorting reasons. So I'm going to copy my typical inline block relative position display. And we're going to now style these two. And our editor header is going to be this entire section, I think. So the width needs to be 100. And the height, 30 pixels. So this should be percentage because it's already within a container. For this, the width is also going to be 100%. The height is going to be a calculation of 100% minus 30 pixels. I'm going to make this background color white. And this header, for now, I'm going to make the background color red. And we'll just go ahead and see how this looks. Actually, we should also make these styled like this. So we launch it, we'll hit new. Looks like it's only creating the thing with the red background. Just editor container. Where is it? Do I need to set an arbitrary height? Yes, I do. All right. Okay, so this is where the name of our file is going to be, and this is where a big text box needs to be. We need to fix the sizing of this a little bit, though. Just say 90 dub. I want this to be height variable. Right now it's not. There we go. It just has this weird stretching bug with the height, the width. All right, that's good for now. We can fix that later. Now we want to fill in our text editor here. Okay, so each of the little tabs is going to be its own kind of class. So inside of our new file here, I'm going to create tab, say var script file tab is equal to document dot create element of div. Some housekeeping stuff, setting its ID. Well, actually, let's set its class to script file tab. That way, if we have multiple, we can easily style them without having to write multiple lines of code. Excuse me. I think that's all we need to really do for that. So we'll say editor container header dot append child script file tab. I'll actually set the inner HTML of it to be untitled.jsx. like unsaved icon. I wonder if we're gonna have a save feature. I guess we need a save feature. But then, okay, there's a lot of little features that I gotta figure out. All right, now for the styling of our script file tabs, which are also gonna have some hover properties. Set the width to be 110, I think looks good. It might be a little bit wide. Height, 100%. It's already defined pretty well. Normal positioning. For now, I'll make the background gray. Color inside of it black, the text color. For now, let's make this cursor pointer. Now we hit new, we should create a new guy. And we just need to make that look better, as well as create a big text box with matching colors. In our script file tab, I'm going to set the text alignment to center. We're going to add a slight bit of rounding around the edges, about 5 pixels. And then we'll need to create the element underneath it. Create large text box. Script file text area. We're going to create a text area in this case. No inner HTML. And we'll set this CSS for this element to pretty much be the same as this other one. That's not the right size. It needs to be more like this. So it's not auto setting. This should be 100% actually. The height is not very tall. What's the parent div to this? It's because I put it in the header container. This needs to go in the content container. Okay, sweet. Now, that's pretty nice. We can write code from the center here. That's definitely not how we want to do that, but now we have the very, 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 very basics set up. Saving is going to be something else. Gotta take a little break and think here. So the content is aligned to the center. Don't know why we thought that was a good idea. That needs to be left. All right, cool. One thing I am concerned about is, see how I just pressed tab and it just shot me into Premiere? tabs are pretty common, so that's gonna might be an issue coming up here. All right, so the rounded edges on these elements, I don't know if it's looking too great. Let's see if that will flush it better. No, I'm gonna remove that. And then I'm also gonna give that just a tiny bit of top padding, 5 pixels or so. Yeah, that'll do for now. This should probably be really bright, like almost pure white. C, D, E, F, G, C, D. Let's make it not quite pure white, but pretty close. What else can we change while we're in here? Right now this is just the illusion of a text box, but we need to make it more obvious that yes, this is indeed a checkbox or a text box. Additionally, how are we going to save? We probably need a menu save as well as a shortcut save. So I also need a little X button up here so I can close out of this. See all these little features? Some of them are going to be quick, like run a script, that's pretty easy. So now I'm thinking, should we force the user to save their JSX file before they create it? Or should it just be like untitled and it's unsaved? One thing I'm thinking about is only allowing one file to be modified at a time right now. So I'm going to create a global variable in my JS and call it doc counter, set it equal to 0. When a new file is created, our doc counter is going to be ++. Or we're going to say when the user clicks on new file, if our doc counter is equal to 1, then we want to warn them of something. We're going to create a JSX function called alert. JSX based, we're going to alert a string. Simple as that. We're just creating a function which calls an alert. And the reason we're doing that outside of our HTML or JS is because when we alert within the extension, it gives us a kind of an ugly alert which displays the path of the extension. I can illustrate it here. Just say like hello, versus if I say now we want a new CS interface. CS interface.eval script called alert.jsx. And the thing we want to alert in double quotes here is hello. So this should give us 2 alerts, one of which is from the extension itself, the other is from JSX. And that's when we create a new file when we have too many. So there's the JS hello and the JSX hello. Much cleaner on the JSX one. So we're just going to say if they already have a document open, please, so if they have a document open, okay, so here's an idea. If we force them to create the name of the document up front, and they want to open a new document without closing, we can save it for them. So I'm going to just say if doc counter is equal to 1, then we're going to run some operation to remove or save the current project and remove it. So we'll say doc counter minus minus. Instead of alerting something, we're going to create a function called save JSX file. We're going to need, actually first I'm going to remove that asterisk on there. We're going to grab this file name and use that to just save a file. So I'm actually going to make this a JSX function. So I'll say cs interface.eval script, and then we'll say save file, save JSX file, and we're going to need a few arguments. Firstly, let's give it the name here, which is going to be document.getElementById. The element is called what? Script file tab. And that's actually, it's not an ID, it's part of a class. So we need to say get elements by class name. We'll grab the first one because there's only one. Grab its value, toString. I'm gonna add double quotes in there. Actually, I could just stringify it, honestly. JSON.stringify. Stringify the inner HTML or the file name here. Then we need to get all of the text inside of our text area. So add a second argument, and we're going to insert. Why isn't it like that? Stringify. Get element called script file text area. And that should give us both the name of our file as well as the text inside of our edit text, our text area. Then inside of our JSX, we're going to create this function. The first argument is going to be the file name and the file contents. I'm going to alert each of these. And also remember, in Premiere, you cannot alert integers and things like that. You can only alert strings, so it does work best to just stringify everything. If I hit new again, oh, it just creates a new one. Probably has to do with the async thing going on here. Dog counter should be 1. We'll just add a callback function here, maybe. Really should just do this. No, this is not great coding, but my callback function. So once the script is done executing, then we do all this stuff. So there's no timing problems. It still just creates another one and another one, which is kind of eventually what we want. But not right now. Doc counter is equal to 1. Make doc counter 0. Then set it back to 1. Oh, we're not removing the previous. We're just creating a whole new one. So instead, what we should be saying is, instead of creating a new one, we'll get the element by ID editor container, which we don't technically need the editor container in this case. We just need the header and then we'll reset the inner HTML. This is going to take a second to kind of parse out the little tiny details here. Get element by ID here. Set the inner HTML on this one to also just be, I don't know, empty code. Oh man, these are for the content. Just gonna replace these. So we basically, I think we need to make like a dialogue to tell the user, hey, please select your file name. I think I probably made a mistake, but let's try that. Oh, that works actually. So theoretically, start with a blank script, or they'll open a script and make some edits, blah, blah, blah. The name will be different here. Then if they try and make a new one, we can just like auto-save it and ask them for a new file name. I think something like that. Now let's create the JSX function here to save our actual JSX file. Which now I'm thinking about, this gets run, but it's not giving any alert. So in this case, it's not the value, it's the inner HTML. Split text area. In that case, it should be the value. Let's try this now. We should be getting a JSX alert when we click on new for the second time. There we go. Untitled.jsx and blank code. So that information is being sent to here, and we're going to create a new script file. Script file is equal to a file. We already know the location of our scripts here. Document Premiere script editor / scripts plus our file name, which is going to be file name, and it will be coming in with the JSX extension from our extension. Then we'll say script file .open for writing. Come on. Script file .write. We will write our file contents, and then we'll take our script file and close it. This should probably happen by default when we first create a new file. So we can go ahead and try that. So I think anytime to create a new file, we need to give them a dialog window. So we're going to need to enclose this whole thing in another CS interface. We're going to eval script and say select file name. We're going to return a result. We're going to say if json.parse our result is equal to true, then we can run all of this code we've been working on. The reason we want to check if it's true is we're going to be sending them into a JSX function, which launches. What is the name of that window? It's like an input window for JavaScript. I think I want to use that, but I don't have JavaScript tools guide. Or do I? It's somewhere in like one of these. It's like a confirm or something like that. A prompt, I think. So we're going to be giving like a prompt here. We'll say function select file name. And it gives the value of OK or null if they hit cancel. I don't remember how to call this. It's a JavaScript thing though too, right? We have a message. New script file name. Preset. Untitled. And title. I don't think we need that. Say if result does not equal null, return json.stringify true. Else, return json.stringify null. So now, anytime we create a file, it should ask us, I want to create a new file. What's the new script file name? I guess we'll call it untitled. So now it's untitled.jsx, which is a bit of a scam because that's not really what it's going to be called. We need to update that. I guess we should return our result, huh? And then we'll just say if it's not equal to null. But then we'll say for the file name, we're going to say json.parse our res plus JSX. And then we'll say, we'll create something a little bit fancier here. Let's say json.parse.res. And now it should take on whatever information we give it. We'll say my first script. It's not working. Oh, we need to replace it in more than just one area. This is just for the if it's already created part. So for script file text area dot, is it inner HTML? It is the inner HTML. Because it's not the value. JSON.parseRes. Try that. Let's create a new file. Nope, we won't create a new file because set that properly. Create a new file. My first script. And it looks like we have a height issue, but now you can see we can continue creating new files and it will retain those names appearing as if it has persistence. So if the file name's too long, why did it work in that case? My first script. We'll just take our script file tab and set the white space to no wrap. And that way, no matter what, it'll keep the text in one line. Obviously, it will bleed off there, but for now, that's okay. We just want to make a working product here. Not product, but working thing here. If I hit cancel, it works. Let's see what JSON.parseRes is when I hit cancel. I'm stringifying null. What if I just say 0? If it's not equal to 0, I'm going to return 0 instead. Null. Alright, so I think it's fine for now. We'll just let them deal with their empty thing, their untitled project. Alright, so what's up next? One thing I forgot to check, is this actually creating our files? No. So save JSX file is what should be handling that. And when is that getting called? Our dot counter is equal to 1. I don't know if that should be so specific. I think, well, I guess, yeah, if it's equal to 1, it's already created a document before. This is also the inner HTML. After we get this to save the file, I think we'll do the opening. But we gotta get this to be able to save the file first. Let's go ahead and alert our values here. Something's going wrong with our save JSX file. Actually, let's see if we even make it into it. But see, it should be running that. That worked. It got there. It's documents, not document. But it should be saving the file on our first run as well. So I think having the doc counter be the decider, well, it's still a little bit different. We need this in both of them, to be frank. Right? This whole thing is enclosed, and this only encloses up to there. Try this. Should save it on the initial file creation. Got snagged. It's probably because these elements haven't been created yet. So, I think we just do all this afterward. I don't think the async nature of it will affect it, so let's try. Boom! Testing JSX. And when we open it up, we got testing. So that's working. Let's create another one. And another one. Okay. It doesn't save the one called another one until I create a new one. A little strange, but I think it'll be fine. All right, so now that we have the basics here, let's do the open function. So we'll say function open file. In our index.html, we'll add an onClick to our open button, say open file. And then to open a file, what do we need to do? Well, first we need to save the previous file. If our doc counter is greater than 0. Because if we don't have a doc open, our doc counter is 0. That means we're starting from scratch like this. If that's the case and we hit open, we don't want to save a file because there's no file to be saved. So we only want to save a file if the doc counter is greater than that. Additionally, we will only have these elements created if our doc counter is greater than 0. So if our doc counter is greater than 0, we're going to save our JSX file before we open a new one. And the way we're going to open a new one is, instead of prompting them, well, I guess we have to prompt them. Let me create a CS interface variable. We'll say CS interface.eval script, and we'll say choose JSX file. And when we get the results from that, so if the doc counter is 0, these don't exist yet. If they already exist, that's good. If they don't already exist, I think we need to create them. And I guess we'll increment doc counter at that point too. Because we need them to exist in order to choose a JSX file. Or not necessarily to choose the JSX file, sorry, but to hold on. What are we gonna fill this information with? I guess it doesn't matter if we're gonna change it. Hold on. Just thinking a bit here. We need them to exist because once we choose a JSX file, we need to replace the script file tab with the file name and the script file text area with the file's contents, which are going to be contained in the res object. After we parse our res object, we're going to have our .file name and our .code in this object. And we're going to say document.getElements by ID. We're going to grab, get elements by class name, because that's the way we set it up. Script file tab 0 dot inner HTML is equal to json.parse res dot file name. Then we're going to do the same thing for our script file text area, but instead of the file name, we're going to use the .code. Now, yeah, that should be solid. We're going to make our choose JSX file in our JSX now. We're going to say, I don't have extend script open to test this, but var JSX file is equal to a new file. JSX file is equal to JSX file dot select dialog. Select your JSX file, and then it's like filter, I think. So then we'll say our data. Say if JSX file dot exists, JSX file dot open for reading. Data is equal to JSX file dot read. JSX file dot close. Say if data. If we actually got some data, the file is real. We're going to create an object, empty object. Object.code is equal to data. Say object.file name is equal to JSX file.name. And we'll replace any spaces with the space. Or any of those things with space. Then I'll return JSON.stringify our object. And then I think I'm ready to try this. I don't think the select dialog thing is going to work. It clearly did not ask me for a dialog. So in order to make this work, I'm going to quickly load up ExtendScript, but I have to close Visual Studio Code in order to make that work. And this is definitely one of the longer coding challenges because I'm trying to go hard on it. But it's about time for another quick break. So we're looking at File, and we want to open DLG, I believe. Open this. We need to run this as an admin, so our job's way easier. Try it. Open DLG. No, that's still not working. I know there's another one. Is it select? Save. Open. It's got to be that one. File.open.dlg. Filter. I think it's just a simple error, right? Try open dialog. Oh, it is loading. It's in the background. That's annoying. That's something that I can't totally fix, I don't think. So I think it's OpenDLG. And then I can go, ideally we would want to start them off inside of this folder. And I don't want to make it a closed system, which forces you to use a folder. But if we do that, you can see we can load a file and the contents of it. All right, this is definitely going to be one of the longer coding challenges, but it's going to take some editing this time to cut out the breaks, but it's definitely coming along better than, I would say, some previous coding challenges I've done, which were less than successful. The next thing I want to do is I want to make the play button and the settings button a little bit nicer and make them work. But the question then becomes, what settings? What am I going to be making the settings? Because there's not a whole lot of things that I want to program right now. Like syntax highlighting is going to be a pretty difficult thing to figure out. To like individually adjust characters in a text area. I don't know if that's possible. Let's check JSW3 text area DOM. This will kind of give me an idea of maybe if I can select individual characters or I almost wonder if there's some kind of CSS property where I can say like text area containing like var, and then I can change the background color of var text or something. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not that into CSS, but let's make this play button work first. So we'll go into our HTML here, play button, we'll add an attribute called onClick, and we'll say play click. If the document counter is at 0, meaning we have a fresh canvas, then this should not do anything, obviously. But if it's 1, we want to then grab the name of our file and reference that inside of our JSX folder. So we'll say play click if our doc counter is greater than 0, then we can do some stuff. What we're going to do is, first we need to be able to go into a script. We're going to say csinterface.eval script. We're going to eval run script file. And we're going to give it the name of our script file, which is contained here. Or no, it's this guy here. Say json.parse document.getElements by class name, the script file tab, the first one, dot inner HTML. And that text is unchangeable, so we know it'll be legit. And I believe that's all we have to do for that. Then inside of our JSX, say function, run script file, file name. Then we'll say eval file, and the file we're going to eval is going to be this. Now, I should probably make a script file that means something or does something. So we can just make an alert script, I guess. Say new alert me. Like that. And this has been created. So if I run it, it doesn't work. Let's find out why. We'll go ahead and check our function call here. Grab the script file, HTML, play click. Doc counter is not greater than it in this case. Or wait, is it? Let's try. Just gonna remove this for good measure. Hit play. We get a hello then. Something's wrong with the code. Run script file. Run script file. JSON.parse document.getElements by class name. Oh. We're parsing it, we're not stringifying it. So I should still be able to then go open alert me. Obviously still exists. If I play it, nothing. Script file tab, 0 inner HTML. Let's see. Hello, alert file name. I'm also going to alert this chunk. Should all be strings, should be good to go. Should let me load a file if I press that. Oh, we've got an error in our code here. That's maybe the one thing I don't like about VS Code, is it seems that it's really bad at telling you JSX errors in this case, which I don't blame them. It's not designed to do this, but also this might have already worked. I've hit new. Open alert me. Okay, that's not alerting the right thing. Alert me.jsx. Is it ever alerting test? I should probably look at these. Hello, file name, file path. It should work then. is it getting past it? That's another question. For now, we might even just keep this script to be some crazy minimalist thing. It also didn't save that. That might be an issue too. Select file name. We need to make sure it's gonna save our files properly. New file from scratch. Okay, let's follow the exact workflow here and double check that alert me is indeed just that. First, I'm going to save it purposely inside of here. Because the save feature is what's broken. And if I can do that, okay, that alerts hello twice, which is exactly what we needed. But it's not saving this file at the right time, or at all. So anytime you hit the new file button, it should be forcing you to select a file. Correct. If there's no documents prior to that open, create a new one. If there is, save the file that's already open and change the information. So we have our new file information coming in. I think. Yeah. The problem is I think this is getting called as what, well, when we hit open, we need to look at the open. If our doc counter is not greater than 1. If it is, though, we want to save our JSX file with all that information. Just alert done saving here. Done choosing. So let's open one up from scratch. Alert me. Done choosing. Say I change this text to ASDF. And I want to open a different one. The save workflow is horrible. Okay, so let's see when this works and when it doesn't. So if I tried open one from scratch, it loads just fine. Let's say I already have Untitled open. I want to open up alert me. Now I change something in alert me, and I want to open Untitled. Doesn't seem to do a very good job, does it? Figure this out. Maybe we need to nest it. Open up alert me, ASDF, open up a different file. It's not up. It's not updating this at all with the open. J.code equals data. See if our data variable's valid. That's all of the data. It's also not updating the stuff in here. Script file text area. That's what it's called, right? And HTML that. I'm going to see which one of these functions specifically in the if or else occurs in which of the situations. So we have nothing open, and we open, it goes to A. We have something already open, it goes to A. Alright, so we're just doing A. Oh. They're both A. Let's try that again. Open with nothing, we get B. And open with something, we get A. And that should be permanently A. That's what I initially thought. So it's working the way we want it to, except it's not working. Save JSX file. Let's now see if these objects are built or full. Alert me JSX, alert me hello. And that's not what the inner HTML is there anymore though. Or is it? Am I confusing inner HTML for value? Because it's a text area, right? No, it's totally that, isn't it? Let's do a batch replace. How do we do this? Replace, find in files, replace script file text area 0 value with dot inner HTML. That's it. No, no. Totally the opposite. My bad. There we go. All right. That yields more success. We just need to be able to change this. ASDF. If I open at Untitled here, maybe I want to go back to alert me, and boom, now it's saving. So if you're dealing with divs, text is in the inner HTML. If you're dealing with input or text area elements, it's the value. You can still use the inner HTML, but it's not going to get you the actual stuff which is displayed. All right, let's get rid of any unnecessary alerts. And now we can now run our script. Do we need a settings button? That's the next question. I was thinking we could maybe offer some sort of color palette management, or we're not there yet, but some kind of syntax highlighting or something of that sort. Because really the only major things visibly right now that I think need improvement are the buttons in the top right, and the UI sizing's a bit wonky. Additionally, a save button might be easier than the current setup. So should we just put one right here? I don't know if that would look good or bad, to be honest. Let's create a save file button. Save file already a function I created. Nope. We're going to make this pretty similar to the open file button. Where's the CSS? But this is going to be the save file button. And yes, we're also going to want that border so that it has a nice look there. So this is ideally going to be to make it way easier to save our stuff. There's a lot of like little tiny things you realize that programs do, and to program them yourself is quite a pain. Like if we wanted to have a little asterisk to let you know, hey, you haven't saved this, but like that's just a little tiny feature that would take a little bit. It's just annoying. So Now we have a save click function or save file. We're going to say function save file. And same as the other cases, we want to know if the doc counter is greater than 0, because if it's 0, there's nothing open, there's nothing to save. If it's 1, there's, at this point in the workflow and setup, guaranteed to be something opened, and that can be saved. And we're also going to want to program Control S, I think. Create a new CS interface. And we're simply going to save our JSX file. I think that's all we need to do. So if we go ahead and open up Alert Me, I can add another alert or something. And if we hit save, and then maybe restart it. Let's see if it saved it. Perfect. So we have a basic script creator, opener, and saver, and runner. Do we need a settings? Do we need settings? Maybe to change the font size. Oh, this is so much work, but we got to make this kind of legit. My other big problem again is if I want to say like create a if statement and I want to tab, it tabs into different elements and stuff. It doesn't actually add a tab. Can I shift tab? Alt tab? Obviously not. Alt F4 maybe? Right now I'm really just debating if I should get rid of the settings button. Part of making a good product, even if it's not for sale or whatever, is keeping the workflow simple and kind of minimalism. Don't keep things that are kind of necessary, only keep things that are like totally necessary and have a function. Let's program Control S. I'm trying to remember, I'm just gonna have to Google it. JS keyboard event. How I can get a keyboard event going. On key down, key press. Control S, on key down. Can I apply this to my window? Just add an event listener to the window maybe. And this is actually pretty similar to I think how it works in ExtendScript kind of stuff usually. So we'll say create a global guy here and we'll say document dot add event listener, key down. I don't know, doc key down, and is that not how it works? I thought we could then do what doesn't it like? Do I have to do this? Just say function? I guess, okay. And then the E should be the keyboard event. So if I hit any key, we get a keyboard event. Do I have to be selected in this shit? It's hard to tell when you're selected inside of the extension or not. So can I say window? Okay, I think that'll work for now. If you're typing and you're focused on the input and you hit Control S, it's going to be within that. So now we need to check if E dot control key and E dot key, I don't know what the key numbers are. Is equal to S. We'll just alert save triggered. This is just to see if it works when we hit Control S. If it does, then we'll put in the function to actually do that. So we can be hitting keys, nothing happens. Maybe I open up a document, typing, hit Control S, save triggered. Typing some more, save triggered. Cool. Let's see if we can get this done within the next hour. If our save is triggered, can we just run save file? Yeah, we can just run save file because it checks if the dot counter is greater than 0. So now if I run my script, let's open up alert me. Here's some additional stuff in here. Probably should comment this so it doesn't mess it up. I hit save, I can close this, relaunch the script, and it should have saved. Perfect. So that's just a minor feature that, I think is kind of necessary. The other thing that these programs do is, you can see this is just source 1, but if I start typing, it adds an asterisk to let you know you've made the change and it's unsaved. And then when you do save it, or it goes back to the state that it was last saved in, the asterisk goes away. So that's a tricky one, whether I should include that or not. Right now it's going pretty well though. I think I've decided for now I'm going to disable this settings button because I don't currently have any use for it. So we'll just have the play button, which we should probably kind of stylize or make legitimize it, make it look not so silly. If I do a whole month of tutorials teaching coding in this, is it going to be tolerable? Because that's the plan, is that this is the Premiere scripting tool right now that I'm going to be testing and using all month. A month of use will really point out some of the things that need to be improved and such. But if it's not tolerable for the user, I don't know. All right. Play button. How are we going to do this? Let's just make one. We'll make one in After Effects really quick, and then we'll use that as an image. So instead of play button being a div, I'm going to set it to be an image. Our source is going to be in assets play.png, and we're going to make a quick play button whose dimensions 30 by 30. To match the UI, let's make it a nice gray color. And I'll just make a polygon, triangle, and rotate it. All right, now that's super simple, but I dig it. It'll work. Make that one frame long and we'll export it, call it play. And then we'll go rename it just to play, cut it, and inside of our, is it called extension testing still? Oh well. Make an assets folder, paste that in there, and now we should have our play button, which now frankly probably should adjust the styling of. So play button, we'll remove the border radius. And since it's no longer text, we don't need padding and stuff. You know, without the text, we don't need all this margin stuff. Might be a little bit too big. We'll make the height 25. Initial opacity is going to be 0.7. And if you hover over it, make the opacity full at 1. Gives it a bit of interactivity. I'm going to push it down like maybe 3 pixels. Alright, so that looks a lot better than our initial one. Right now I don't really want to give the user a bunch of errors if they, if they press play and there's no script loaded, and if there's, hit save and there's no script open. I don't want it to cause a bunch of error pop-ups because we want their workflow to be simplified. Maybe we could add some kind of display text right here that says, hovers over for a few seconds then disappears to let the user know if there's something they click that is invalid or something. Yeah, let's think about what's next. It still works, we can still play all that. Save it right then and there, and play it immediately. That's like the basis of what I wanted to create, but I'm still gonna push on a little bit further today. Because when I started Premiere scripting, I didn't realize there was no file scripts, run script file option, and that extend script was really the only way besides an extension to run a script inside the program. And just having this somewhat easy to run extension allows you to create new scripts, save them and do all that kind of stuff and immediately run them inside of the program. And even we could even dock it inside of here and run it and test it all in one go. So that I think is just something of convenience that is really needed. Hey, what's up, JPearl? This is all CEP extensions. So not the new. This isn't new. What's it called? The React plugins are called. I forget. They're called plugins now. UXP plugins, which we'll be going over in the future, but right now that's only available in Photoshop. And yeah, this is pretty much just all HTML, CSS, which is what makes it kind of simplistic. And this is going to be totally open source, so if anyone wants to start modifying this, changing the colors or anything, it's totally okay for them to do that. All right. So we got rid of the settings button because we don't really have the settings to set up. What should we do next? This is what the code looks like. So usually in these coding challenges, when I do these live, I don't usually interact a whole lot with the stream, but because we got a VIP JPearl on the stream, shout out to our VIPs in the Discord server and everywhere else. Yes, this is HTML, extend script, JS, CSS, and a little bit of XML. So it's quite simplistic, but I don't know how soon you came in here, but we're building a Premiere script editor for a whole month of Premiere tutorials coming out in August. This is the first video, and the rest of them are going to be made with this. So I'm trying to make a script editor that both works. As you can see, we can run scripts and then we can modify them. Yo, jperl. We can save them with the shortcut Control S, or we can hit save here and have that update. So I think we're nearing completion of what I want this to be for the coding challenge video. But I'm trying to think of any other last minute features, things I could add. The biggest problem is I don't have auto ability to do like tabs and stuff. If I hit tab, it's gonna switch between different elements here. Maybe if I do an on key tab inside of here. Let me see inside this keyboard event if there's a tab key. JS keyboard event tab key. IntelliSense code completion. I could maybe complete the word var for them. That might work. Why is this not easy? Check tab press. I guess the key code for tab is E or 9. So because if I hit tab, when we write code, we'd like to hit tab to add some space instead of being 4 spaces. Because that just rotates between elements, what we need to do is then say insert a tab into this text area and then refocus the text area. So in our main JS, prevent default, that sounds familiar. I actually don't remember what that means. I think do I have that here? No. Cancels the event if it's cancelable. I don't know if that would work in this case. I have an idea though. So I have this event listener for our whole window, which detects the Control S. Now let's add one for our text area if we have one. That could work. In the comments, jperl is saying we should use an on key down if it prevent default. Here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna check if we have one of these text boxes open. If we do, well, on its creation first, actually. When we create this text box, or text area as it's called, we create it in a few places, I think, so I'm gonna have to double check here. Yeah, we create it in 2 different places. We're gonna add an on key down, so we'll say script file text area dot set attribute on key down. Run a function called text area key down. How do we send a keyboard event listener through this? Is that possible? Or can I initialize one? Get rid of the parentheses. Yes, but how do I get... I mean, I just do this. Text area key down. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's automatically passed. Let's try that. ToString, because in Premiere you can't alert whatever you want. Open. I don't think that's working. I'm actually not familiar with how to do it in this way. In this case, it makes it seem like it's automatic. Hey, thanks for stopping by, JPearl. We'll see you around in the Discord, and thank you for the good luck wishes. We'll be done with this very soon. We're just doing a couple last features. We may have to avoid doing tabs in this case, just because. How does this work? I don't think I can. I can't do this, can I? It's totally possible this will work, but. Nope. Also, this may be the wrong area. This is when we open a file, which is actually the right area. For now, let's go ahead and just ignore the tab problem. That'll have to be one of the issues we add to our list of things to do. So, I'm trying to think if maybe we could do some last minute height adjustments. You can see how annoying this can get, having to really stretch things out to make it fit. So in our CSS, let's have a look at our content div. This height is 90 all the time. Let's set it something a bit less, like 70. As you can see, that is a lot less extreme. And if we're going to fit that into the various spots inside of the UI, that will fit a lot better. All right. One thing I was wondering is making every other line a different color, but I don't think we have individual row control over that. W3 text area DOM. I know we have access to the rows and columns. Get the height of a text area in characters. So that should give me 5. 5. I'm not sure if that's going to be something we want to do either. We could maybe do some kind of custom background which loops vertically, which alternates shades of color. Right now, though, this is like the basics of a code editor, right? The only things we're not going to currently have is a guide to help people learn, which is really something that I should do. I should make one of these for all the Adobe programs, but I'm not trying to make my own entire original IDE here. So let's just overview of everything we've done and if we have anything else we want to do before we push this and call it good. Obviously, as I test this throughout the entire month of August, or whenever I'm creating these tutorials, I'm going to find little things that need improvements, and I'll make those improvements, and you'll be able to see those in the GitHub as well. So, reviewing, we have Premiere Script Editor. We can go ahead and create a new script from scratch when we can name it whatever we want. My first script. And if we want to be more legitimate, we could even do something here actually for Premiere. Let's go ahead and say var clip is equal to app.project.activeSequence. Video tracks 0.clips 0. I'm going to say alert clip.name. Gonna save this and run it. And as you can see, just like that, we can run a script, create a script inside of Premiere, and get live feedback of everything. If you want to get the start of our clip, we might have to do start.seconds. Save it. No. Clip dot endpoint. Sometimes I'm not good with these things. And remember, with Premiere we have to say toString. So we can get a time object. Let's say .seconds. The endpoint 0. The end 30.11. So all this is working. There's of course some minor things that could need improving. We could allow the user to customize the font color, the background color. I think we're going to do that just off stream because those are quite basic things, and we've really just wanted to create the initial functionality of this extension. We've got the preset folders which contain all of our scripts and allows us to go in and access them all in one easy location. We can open up other scripts, save them with this button, a shortcut, run them. And for now, I think that's really a good start. Like I said, little tiny things are going to be fixed in the background here. We're going to add little features here and there. The last thing I'm going to do is update the version to 0.5. 0.7 will probably be one with a ton of user interface and minor updates, and the rest will come later. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the thumbs up button down below, hit subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of new videos coming out twice weekly on the channel. And down in the description, you can check out the code for this in the GitHub link. I'll be pushing that in just a moment. You can also follow us there for coding updates, and in the description, follow us on Instagram for other live updates. If you're not a member of the Discord server, you can come and join and get help with scripting, extensions, plugins, expressions, submit tutorial ideas, and much more. And if you'd like to help support us on YouTube, you can become a member, supporter, premium supporter, or VIP and get cool perks like Jay Pearl, who stopped by today. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.